a gym and or dance studio or performance play area, or you know, and there's some things that we have to live with. Like for instance, a pre-K classroom has to have a bathroom attached. So there's certain things that there's ISB requirements. There's, Elaine can talk more on like construction type, you know, requirements, and then you know, things of what's and wants. But I would say, you know, like don't build a huge lobby like we had in our 2011 edition. Let's utilize that, though it's very pretty, but let's utilize that space so that our students can use it more for learning, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you go to, there's weekly meetings that you go to, and just, once the construction starts, and Carlos and Angel will both be there as well. They'll help with the safety issues and being able to ask, like Carlos will be able to ask his engineering expertise, etc.
Right.
You know, as you're working on this with the alderman as well, I don't know if she can handle it comprehensively to also make sure that those streets are going to be resurfaced. The streets surrounding the school are going to be resurfaced. I mean, it looks like a war zone there right now, and I assume they're going to be torn up even further by the construction vehicles. But if you're talking with Alderman Nugent, if they can handle that comprehensively, that would be a great idea.
That's a good idea. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I will. Yes.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep moving here and talk a little bit. I want to give Christina Tassone a minute just to say anything if you're willing to, or feel the need for the capital expansion initiative. Take a huge bow, I think.
No, it took a village. It was great. We had such great support from administration, the parents, and LSC. The community was great, and really, especially the home stretch with the Board of Education meetings. So really big thanks to everyone. I'm actually surprised how fast a decision came. So I'm so grateful there that we're able to start the project itself. And no, that's it. Just now wanting to see how it comes to fruition.
Right.
So excited, Elaine, that you're going to be part of the process too, and just making sure from a architectural perspective that makes sense. And obviously Chris leading the pack in terms of the needs from what the needs are. And I love that, you know, Tom, you're bringing up really some good points just from a community perspective, just to make sure that we're not forgetting kind of our either one to negotiate, but also any things that may be amiss when we're talking, just thinking about the overall picture. So I'm happy. I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Kudos.
We're gonna have a party when we can.
Great job. Great job.
And I will have to say, Alderman Nugent has been very supportive, very, very open to any suggestions. So we'll work closely with them, and as well as the community and our perimeter neighbors, I should say.
Yeah, very much so. All right. Budget report, if there is any. I don't know if we've got anything of uber significance to record here at the school council meeting, or?
No, the only, I do want to say that we did, in our last part of the principal's report, I apologize, we had to pay $1,010 to Craig Marin, who repairs our Chromebooks. And these were the Chromebooks prior to March, you know, that had broke just, you know, as students, you know, as accidents happen. So that was the only check since March, April, May, June, July, August. This might be the year to join the budget committee, as there's not a lot of money to be approving, but we will be fiscally smart and making sure that we spend our money wisely moving forward.
All right. Awesome. A little bit of regular business. And I don't know that we don't have any school usage that I know of that we have to approve. And then prior to that, any receipts or expenditures from internal accounts. So we'll move forward. On to old business, I have as item number 8, committee consolidation and LSC initiatives. I took an opportunity to kind of revamp our committee list and initiative list. And I passed that around to everyone in an email. Let me know if you didn't get it. I or the board doesn't really need to approve this so much as I'd like to know that everybody reviewed it, set their eyes on it, and is comfortable with the way we're proposing our committee and initiative work. In that, there's 4 committees that we are required to have or that are ongoing work throughout the school year. One of it's the budget committee, so we will have that. The principal review committee, because that has activity every year for us, whether we're in a contract renewal pattern or not. And then 2 other ones that relate to the school administration, and that's the LRE, the Least Restricted Environment Committee, and the PPLC, the Professional Personnel Liability, I think, or Leadership committees. So those 4 are regular meetings, standing committees, and then we've made kind of a determination to pull up what we're calling initiatives when there are topics that need to be addressed by the school board, like the capital expansion initiative. That's a committee we don't need year round because it's not active all the time. And we will develop these and publish them, put chair people in place as we need to do them for topics that we need to address for the school or the community. So I just kind of wanted to speak to that, and not that we have to give any sort of approval or comments here. I would just like all of you prior to next meeting, look at it, react. And if there is any negative reaction to it or something that we really need to revamp, let's talk about it at the next meeting. Or now, if you've looked at it and have something to say now, that's fine too.
So definitely for capital expansion initiative, I think I got confirmation and all from Chris. I think we can close that initiative up.
Okay.
So that's one.
Okay.
And then anybody who is wanting to be involved in the budget committee, especially just to help just get some other eyes, and possibly for maybe next term, someone taking that piece over, that would be great. Just putting it out there.
Well, I'm happy to join under your guidance.
Okay.
And then can talk about taking a leadership role once I understand what you do.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. I think also if there's anyone else, I think always 2 eyes is good for the budget aspect. So we can, look it over and let me know. That was it. That was my comment.
Sure. Thank you. Someone's gonna have to jog my memory, please. The Principal Review Committee, Mary Kay Hagerty, has been the one pulling that effort together for the last number of years. Did we talk about a successor for her coming up? And if we didn't, is anybody willing to?
The big year too. So we gotta.
This is a contract year. So it looks different than other years in that we do an accumulation or a summary of the past 4 years. of evaluations. Mary Kay's been really diligent and has all those records. And she and I have spoken. She's extremely happy to be in the wings of whoever does this, and help pass the baton and download information. So,
and there's training also, right? Also on this piece, so it's not. It's the training and plus Mary Kay. I think there's some good knowledge transfer if anyone wants to take it.
Right. Exactly.
Even Marcia Shapiro helped out over the years too. I'm
Right.
sure she would help.
Right. And I play a decent role in it too, and have kind of helped with evaluation and comments and that sort of thing too. So it's not a foreign topic for me either. So I'm here as a resource. Is anybody interested in sharing that? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing all the work. It just means you're more or less the point person who does a lot of that inputting of information into CPS's system. Anybody at all out there?
Lynn, did you say we have to decide by the next meeting?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Chew on that one. Sleep on it tonight. But again, it's not high homework. It's very well organized too. I'll sell it that way. Having done it a couple times myself. So, but again, like I said, hear any kind of reactions, pros or cons to how we're consolidating the committee and initiatives. And then also in old business, and kind of touched on this a little at the beginning, board vacancies and the November election. We have, if we were to remain where we are with our discussions and the people we've talked to, we would not have a contested election in November, which is something to say, good nor bad. But we kind of have to hold tight to hear how they're doing the elections, how they're opening any sort of, I'm losing the word, anybody that's interested in running for election, any candidates, that's the word I'm looking for, whether they're going to open it up to new candidates. We've got to yet hear from CPS to hear how that's all going to be taking shape for November. But as of date, I want to give a huge thank you to Deepak and Katrina and Steve and Cooper, for being earmarked for, becoming part of the board next year. So, anybody have any concerns, issues, comments, or anything about the board and the election coming up at all? All right.
Just curious, are there, do parents know that there is an opportunity?
That's what is unclear to me. And Chris, I don't know if you can help, Chris Mons, if you can help me out here at all. If there's been any communication on opening back up the election.
So we don't have any directives as of yet. I can reach out to Luis tomorrow just to see what the game plan is. Also, I'll ask Luis about timeline for the principal's contract, because I don't think we know that either, right?
Timeline is in for the evaluation or when it's due?
Both, and then the summary and then the contract. So okay. I'll put those timelines. And Chris, I'm going to try to get clarification. I always feel, and we've said this year for year, if there's vacancies that arise for whatever the circumstances are, that we usually open it up to the school invited. But right now, we've only gotten information on students which is more refers to the high school, and or staff members, and how filling any vacancies. So I'll touch base with him, and then I'll put something in. I'll email all of you, and then I will get something in the newsletter once we know. Can we start advertising? Try to get some kind of timelines and what requirements are.
Right. Go ahead.
I was going to say the downfall to it is I feel like either when LSCs have tried to fill vacancies, let alone election, but vacancies, it's always tough because I always feel like somebody doesn't get on. And, there's multiple ways, obviously, of being involved at the school, volunteering, what have you, but also just being on any LSC committees as well. So we'll get clarification on that, Chris. And we'll put something in the newsletter once we get more information from the local school council department.
Yeah, and I think we'll have that too, so that we can talk about it at back to school night too, for the parent population. They can hear it there as well.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. We'll move on to new business, and we'll talk of two things here. The first being this digital communication from the LSC. So we touched on it at the beginning of the meeting. So topic back up and open. So Chris, did you want to add something or ask Chris something?
I'm curious. I've certainly had some questions over the summer from anxious parents who want to know what's going on with the LSC, want to know what's going on with the expansion. And I just wanted to put it on the table for some discussion. I'm curious if other parents here have had similar feedback, and if personally I get the sense that parents want faster access to the LSC decisions and notes. And I think we're doing that with posting the draft notes. I think that's great. I'm not a Twitter user myself, but I'm just getting in there now, and I see Sean already posted this month's meeting ahead of time. So, especially with parents not going into the school, seeing notices on the front door, I'm just wondering, do we need to rethink a little bit how we communicate with parents who are interested in following LSC?
Right. I personally haven't heard much. It's been more on a classroom basis. Seventh grade parents interested in connecting with other seventh grade parents, and not so much on the school council meetings. I don't know if anybody else has heard anything or seen schools that are doing things differently that were, something that was appealing.
I guess that's my question, Chris. I would, as a parent rep, I would ask, I haven't heard anything. No one has come to me with, hey, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the LSC. If we could get a little bit, if a parent has provided, just like what exactly are we looking at? Are we looking at, you can't find where the minutes are, it's not fast enough? Is it truly like the time period that they don't feel as connected? Maybe is this an opportunity to connect with more parents on the LSC initiatives or try to get involvement? Just trying to gather maybe the specific issue so we can be specific with the solution too. Because I don't know if it could be, hey, do they know that they can join a committee? Yeah, right. I don't know if there's something we need to maybe propose that, hey, we've got these committees and let us know if you want to be involved. And maybe that's something that we could send in the newsletter. Or, hey, did you know, and maybe this is something we can get on the newsletter, did you know that the LSC minutes are located here? Maybe it's something that we can get there, because we know that everybody reads the newsletter.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I do. I'm thinking everybody reads the newsletter. That's maybe a bold assumption I just made there, but it's such a great avenue. And maybe we need to market ourselves a little bit, market ourselves to open availability, and just make sure that parents feel welcome and not that they can come and ask questions. Hey, do you know you can attend? Just little things. Maybe we can put out blurbs prior to the meetings and just learn about the LSC. What is it that we're working on? What is it that we're doing? How can you be involved? Just putting it out there. I'm not exactly sure if that's what's being asked, but I was always curious when I wasn't on the LSC. So I came to the meetings and got really, that's how I understood it. And I read all the minutes prior, but maybe not everybody knows that that's available to them. And so we can mark it.
So I'm just going to read what's in the chat here that Mr. Kennedy wrote, that he would be happy to share meeting details via newsletter. I think that's the route to go. I think once we get everybody in that routine, here was it was in the previous newsletter, here's the agenda, here's the draft minutes. I think if we keep advertising that, people will be assured. And the nice thing about it is advertising the fact that, we can now post draft minutes, and then not have to wait a whole month of what we discussed, a month ago. So I think that might be helpful. And then the other thing, Chris, I think with marketing, and I think Christina's got a great point, but I don't want you to be crushed either. I think that in this world of, our COVID, of being able to attend virtual meetings, I know I did invite some of the members, some outside members are looking to become future members. I know we have one other parent that's on right now, our loyal audience. So it's hard. We've had meetings during the day. We've had meetings before school. We've had meetings right after school. We've had meetings 6:30, 7, 6. So it's just, I think if parents say that, I think we got to say, hey, did you know that it's in the newsletter and you can find any years? I think Ms. Court keeps at least 1 year, if not possibly 2 years of minutes up on the website, and tries to keep that up to date. So just, I think if we keep talking about it and keeping it in the newsletter is the route to go for sure.
Yeah. The one specific change I think I would recommend, as I see we have the dates posted, and I think thinking over the past couple of years, we usually get 5 to 15 parents show up, right? And they might have a specific comment to make at the end. Here we're getting maybe one. It's very few, right? So I think to at least keep that window open for parents to participate, we should post the Google Meet links for the whole year in advance, so that there's no doubt and there's no closed doors, an open door if they want to listen in and participate in the public comment section at the end here.
No problem. We can do that. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else to that? Otherwise, we're going to slide into the newly added item to new business, which is the gradual reentry of school. I'm going to either pass that to you, Christine Munns, or Christina Tassone.
I could start, and then Chris, why don't you wrap around? So hearing from parents, as a parent rep, I kind of came back and said, look, hearing from mainly many different grades, but in particular, kindergarten. First of all, I want to first say the teachers, the special teachers, have been doing an outstanding job, I think, with the smaller kids, especially. And I can only speak to kindergarten, but I have been talking to some parents on the first grade as well. And they're really doing an exceptional job considering what we're kind of faced against. But the kindergarten, I would say first, has been a little bit tough, because there are some areas such as like very tactile, small motor skills, how to hold scissors, how to hold your pencil, a little bit of the social emotional, like the feedback that you get being in a classroom. And we're actually trying to evaluate with other parents, like what are we seeing that is being really tough to sit next to a kindergarten and they're just not getting it over the computer. And so what I asked Chris is, hey, you know, what is the plan for reentry? Is there some thought process to at least start with the smaller kids? Just because, again, it's just so it's like teachers are doing a fantastic job. It's just the fact that it's kindergarten and they're still trying to understand coming from preschool, this also the socialization thing, which is very big too. So I had asked Chris, like, what are we hearing from the Board of Education? What are we hearing from CPS? What is going on? Just the plan for reentry. Is it something that will be, you know, hybrid for all levels? Is it going to, or all grades, or is it a gradual, like some areas that we know of, you know, like Lincolnwood or some of the suburbs have been doing that, where they're really gradually entering from smallest to oldest by year. And I know, Chris, you can now talk to this, like what has the discussion been? And I was proposing, like, is there something that we can push and state? And I know that there's a lot of politics involved, but if we can say, look, this is what we're seeing, and these are the things that, despite all of the efforts that are being made from a remote perspective for these small kids, this in person is going to be a miss. And if we can get these starting at least here, can we get a plan to gradually get the kids back into school? So I'm bringing that up as a way, and I don't know where LSC plays, but at least I know some parents that would be willing to at least get some letters and get in the ear of the board and CPS aspect. So I talked to Ms. Munns about this and just wanted to get her take.
So I'm gonna jump in here. So the decisions are based out of downtown CPS. What we can do as administrators, and we've been pretty vocal as principals, assistant principals, really wanting to get their kids back in the building and get it up. We're noticing, though, yes, I agree, Christina, that the teachers are doing a phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. It is 1,000 times better than what we saw in the spring when this was sort of tossed at us. The teachers did do a phenomenal job of planning, even prior to school starting, and, you know, like we stated. So it has nothing to do with the teachers. It's more of child-centered and what can we do. You know, it's hard. I was a first grade teacher, and sometimes kids don't even know how to hold their pencil correctly. So, you know, those are the type of things that we can be a little bit more vocal on, in the sense of, hey, have we thought about this? Now that we're in remote learning, this is what's working and this is what's not working. So my recommendation are a couple routes to go. One is, I know that there are parents on Sauganash and in Sauganash school, as well as, you know, on our LSC, that socialize with other, you know, parents that have students that go to other schools. So I think that's an avenue to sort of reach out. Hey, this is what we're seeing. Are you seeing the same thing? So just backing up a little bit, and I've got a couple things in my head. One is, when we talked about the hybrid plan, and that's, you know, having pods A and pods B, CPS always did mention that our English language learners and diverse learners would be on campus for the 4 days, because that's what the Board of Education identified as needing help. Christina is bringing up another angle of, hey, we're also noticing the kindergarten and first grade, you know, are feeling that way as well. It is harder. Remote learning is definitely harder for kindergarten and first grade. I think second grade and up They've gotten used to it. They've worked with Google Classroom. So they understand, how to go in and out much easier, because feedback that I've gotten from both the kindergarten teachers and the first grade teachers are, we're starting it. Each week it gets better. Don't get me wrong. They are starting more small group instruction, but what they're noticing is the instructional minutes that are lost when they go from whole group to small group. Just being able to find, okay, click on the chat. That's your link that you go into, or okay, now you close this group of students I'm meeting with, and so there is that's the slower aspect of it. So that's one I want to say. Two is they are practicing it, so it is getting better. But I kind of want to bring in the social emotional factor, and I'm relating to a conversation I had with my kids in college, and both of them, one's a sophomore, one's a junior. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is they were talking to freshmen, and they were noticing these freshmen are stuck in their dorm rooms by themselves, door closed, and these freshmen are, eager to meet. It's the same thing that's happening to our kindergartners. They haven't met their classmates. At least with first grade, they knew some of the kids that were in their class last year. It's the same miss that they're missing out on. I do know that there is a group of kindergarten parents that meet, social distancing, at the park to do play dates, that kind of thing. But they're very hungry, and anybody would want to know, my children are still hanging out with friends, and my husband still hangs out with friends from kindergarten. So, there's that aspect of how can we get them up and going?
It's also the motivational too, I would say.
Exactly.
It's like that age, they need to be in a group. Okay, you ate. Let me show you how I'm going to put counters on the apple. And then also you're going to motivate, because you're going to see other kids trying to do it, and then you're going to see it, and then you're going to do it. And that's completely is a miss for both kindergarten and first grade. Remember, the first graders kind of missed out on the kindergarten piece. So there's some skills that they're still trying to also adapt to that they didn't really get completed at.
Correct. So I think, we as administrators can give that feedback, but I think there's also an avenue that we can do things to make some changes. One would be, to utilize what we used to call the Northwest Coalition, schools that are on the Northwest side. We would get together, parents and administration, and discuss a topic like this. What can we do? How can we get our voices heard? How can we encourage the Board of Ed to get the students back on campus? Okay, now obviously, as well as our CDC says it's okay, the mayor, et cetera, our numbers go in the right direction. And then the other thing is, in the past, Elaine, we've had LSC members kind of jump on that raise your hand.
Right.
For those community. So that might be another avenue that parents might think of, a way to, get our voices heard. I'm sure it's not just Sauganash School that is experiencing this.
Quick question. How do the teachers feel? Because weeks ago, it seemed there was a number of teachers, not Sauganash, just general population teachers, that were not comfortable with in-classroom instruction. So this whole parent versus teacher tug of war was spiking up. What are you seeing on the teacher side regarding their comfort level with being in person?
We can do that. You know what? I'm going to let the teachers speak. And I know that they've got it, they're obviously dealing with the Chicago Teachers Union, where it becomes a little, political there between the mayor and CTU and how things are going. Teachers, anything? Staff, Lara?
Well, I just want to add, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to add, Mrs. Munns, to what you were just talking earlier, and we know that all the students should be in school. But how about the special ed students, especially in primary grades, that have no help at all, that cannot sit still for 10 minutes without the help of an adult? What's happening to those students? I mean, the girl that I work with, her mother had to quit work to literally sit next to her every day. We're communicating back and forth on the phone. We're doing everything we can. But these are the students who, in my opinion, if anybody should be in school, they are, because they're the only ones that the only help they can get is at school. As for what we think, of course, we would like to be in school, and that's what we think. But then you have the union, which tells us not to not to be in school. So that's the conflict. But in my opinion, of course, we would love to be back in school, and that's what's best for all the students and for us. I don't know, Miss Murphy, if you want to add, or Miss McKenna.
Yeah, certainly I can address, and echo much of what you said, Laura, especially as a diverse learner, teacher. Just seeing my students who do need that functional support on a day-to-day basis, even maximum support in the classroom itself, it's that much harder for them outside of the classroom virtually. So I can definitely attest to that. I think, at least my personal standpoint as a teacher, as someone who would love to be back in the classroom at this time, is of course for it to be safe for all involved, for it to be science driven, while still keeping student outcomes and best practices for our students in mind. So it's that internal battle, and at this point, hoping for the best with our COVID numbers and hoping that we can develop that hybrid model soon.
Do we, we're talking about it here on the school council. Is it something that the school council can support the school with? Is it important that we're merely having these discussions here in this venue so that people can bring ideas, and energy to this topic? Or how can we support you, Chris, with any of this? Or Christina Tassone, what do you think, can be some, actions to kind of get this topic, to keep the topic going?
So my suggestion really is probably getting somebody, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an LSC parent, or, it can be any parent, to be a part of that Raise Your Hand. It would be interesting to see what that organization is saying on this topic. And then the other thing is, we've got a principal AP meeting on this Thursday. Could bring it up to our former LSC. Sorry, I'm in the kitchen. Ice cubes. Just kidding, ice cubes. The coalition, to see if we can get that up and going, because that really I think we need to start getting that band back together, because I think budget is going to be our next hurdle in how we are funding for schools, period, let alone with most of us having our numbers affected by membership. So I will be more than happy to bring that up with principals to see if we can get a coalition up and going again. I have talked to Chief McGlade about it. She agrees. We need to get some kind of parent voice, a collective parent voice. So it's not just coming from Sauganash School. It's coming from multiple schools that are in the same same scenario.
All right. Let's
But the board's not the problem. The problem is the CTU. The only reason they're not in school right now is because the CTU threatens to strike.
I think it's going to be hard, though, because I agree, but I think it's going to be hard if you say, you know what, here's a kindergarten class and here's what's getting missed, and it's across the board. Like at some point, and you're having the Catholic schools being successful, with reentry, and you're having local suburban schools also being successful with reentry.
Yeah. Let's
So I
do,
think that piece, we're gonna have to push. I mean, I get
We
it.
have
I
to
get
push the
CTU
CTU.
piece.
That's who's fighting this. It's not the board. The only reason we're not in school right now is CTU.
I agree, but what I'd like to understand is if the Board of Education can go that route with a gradual reentrance.
Okay. Again, you're still fighting the CTU.
Yeah.
The board is on
With
board
the
with
gradual
hybrid plan.
reentrance, I don't think that has been proposed.
I'm having a hybrid plan up until the CTU threatened to strike.
No, I'm
let's,
saying a gradual reentrance. So that's what I was kind of thinking. It's a little bit different, and I wanted to see if there's any way to, if just having like the smaller grade start, like what has been successful in suburban areas, which is a different approach than hybrid. So I just want to see, I wanted to see if that was a way to get this started because it has been successful in other areas.
I agree, but I think the pressure should be put on the writing campaign should be put on the CTU because the board is already on board.
Yeah. Let's take this topic and let's talk about it at our next meeting. And between now and then, let's get some research and let's allow Chris to talk to the principals and, get a tab there to see if there's interest, and let's get somebody with an ear into, raise your hand.
Raise your hand. I think we need to probably look and advertise to see if a parent would take that lead and participate in those community meetings. The raise your hand.
Right.
And I think that has to be sooner than a month because we're talking about immediately.
Yeah.
Chris, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I would say this could be, we've reduced a lot of our committees and we're closing the capital initiative. I think maybe that could be our
initiative.
Additional initiative for this year is I've seen parents form their own groups of pandemic management. I think there are parents who are willing to go deep into the research and bring solutions to local parents, whether it's networking, finding tutors, pointing out other schools that have successfully or unsuccessfully. I think I've heard Loyola High School went all in and then they had to shut it back down because of outbreaks straight away. So I think there's a mix of examples out there, but if we could get a group of parents together to focus on it, research it, and represent Sauganash, I think that would be a worthwhile initiative.
Yeah. And Chris, there are good data points at the grammar school level. I think the high school is not necessarily representative. Queens, for example, we've been successful. So my concern about whether the teachers want this is Kenosha School District went online learning today because the teachers were not comfortable with whatever safety precautions, so there was a mass call in and they went online. So if the parents want it, but the teachers aren't comfortable, there's not going to be a solution. So.
And, and Angie, just to Don's comments earlier, the Board of Education was ready to go with a hybrid. We actually had to do planning for a hybrid model. And that is when CTU members did go down and protest the Board of Education. So that was hence why the hybrid was altered. And I don't know, so I'm sorry, don't quote me, even though we're being recorded, that I'm not sure what the city's COVID numbers were. So I don't know if it was CDC, was it a combination of both? But I do recall CTU members, I'm not saying Sauganash school teachers, but CTU members did protest downtown at City Hall and in front of the Board of Education once they decided to go with a hybrid model.
Should we advertise this in the newsletter in some form to try and pull a parent who might be interested in kind of spearheading this, or a small group of people that would be?
Sure. What we can do is just put the minutes and the recording of the LSC. And if they want to find out more information, we're looking for a volunteer that will participate, obviously virtually, which is much more convenient, obviously, to these parent meetings. I don't know what other organizations are out there besides Raise Your Hand. So I can ask around, but I think that's the only one that I know of up and going.
Right. Okay.
We'll advertise it in the next newsletter.
Anything else anybody would like to add? I'm going to open it up for public comment too, if anybody, Mr. Bob, if you're there and want to say something, or anybody else who's on the meeting.
No, I don't have too much to say. The only thing is if you're looking for volunteers to help with the annex team, the expansion team, Beth would be interested also.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Thanks for saying so.
Okay.
Make sure to keep her in the loop. Just a quick one here. A couple parents in the 7th grade called me wanting to hear if I had heard anything about NWEA testing and kind of the route into high school entrance exams for the middle schoolers. And I know we have the Google meeting Wednesday, I think it is at 6. So hoping to hear some things there, but just bringing it. I don't need any sort of comment or any even say anything, but just that there's people are wondering, just like we all are, what the deal is. So just want to say that. So and I probably don't have to say this either, but when things get known, if that can be broadcast specifically to that group, they're hungry for information.
Sounds good. No, I agree. As of the assessment email that we received, update from the Board of Ed, they are doing SAT and PSAT high schoolers on campus. So they have moved forward. They've made a decision with that. As of right now for elementary school, they've just said that assessments have been postponed.
Right.
So we don't have any further information, but I cannot advertise enough to the 7th and 8th grade parents and even 6th grade parents, though it's a COVID year, but they should probably start hearing some of the options that they have for their children for high school and selective enrollment high schools.
Right.
So that is Wednesday night, I believe at 6 o'clock.
Yep, it is 6.
6 o'clock, right?
Yep.
And Mrs. Algaretti is going to go through that whole process and give an update. I know she's got the test scores. I do know that they're using the best test scores so that there is something. And so she'll go through in much more detail for that. That's Wednesday night at 6 o'clock.
Right. Wanted to make sure that was announced too. And similar group of parents too, wanting to know, sort of the rite of passage of middle school things like trips to Washington, D.C., Springfield, and those sort of things. Knowing that that's all unknown, but just if there's any communication out there that they'd love to have it, if anybody knows anything about it. So I know the advice I'd given the folks that have been contacting me is that, I think there's a need for a strong parent, connection in the classrooms just to get creative and figure out how to do a lot of that stuff given the parameters we have to work with. So, but just wanted to bring that to the meeting as a concern, not a concern, but just an issue that was coming up. Anything else? Otherwise, we will meet again. November 16th is Monday's date at 6:30. Similar format. We'll get a Google invite out on the newsletters, and do the same thing like we're doing tonight. So,
so on October, I just noticed that it says November. We're in September.
Oh God, October
So
16th.
16th. Sorry.
Whoa. Okay, October 16th. That sounds a little better. Thank you.
Sorry, October 12th?
Hold on.
Sure.
Monday, October 12th?
Sure. It is.
Monday, October 12th.
Okay.
That's
Thank
still
you,
a holiday.
You know that
The meeting is currently on the calendar. The date that was given was October 19th.
Okay.
Is October 12th still a holiday, or is
It's Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yes.
and
it
it's
is a
still
holiday.
a holiday.
Sorry about that. October 19th.
I should apologize. I had way off. So with no other items to address, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting here at 8:07. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our prospective board members here. And thanks to our public representation. Love to see you there. And everybody enjoy their evening, and we'll talk again soon.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
everyone,
Stay
please.
healthy.